I'm Mike Sherman, and here we are again, explaining why computers love the Oklahoma Sooners more than human beings.
And they do love them. From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson. News OK's Press Row is brought to you by Eskridge Lexus. Stop in and see them today. Sherm, computers have the Sooners ranked number one, solidly number one in the BCS standings, but they're 4 in the human polls. What's going on here?
Well, what's going on is computers only consider what you put before them, not past, not perceptions, not Bob Stoops' BCS bowl failings. They consider things that matter right now, which is who the Sooners have beaten and the strength of those teams. And once again, the Sooners are riding strength of schedule to the top of the BCS standings. Silly us for being surprised. We hear Brad Edwards say last week that was going to be Boise State. Through no fault of its own, Boise State doesn't play anybody, can't get anybody to play them. The Sooners, who've beaten Florida State, who've beaten Air Force, who have beaten Texas, who have played and beaten a Cincinnati team that's probably going to end up playing in the Big East Championship game, that counts for something. Today it counts for number one in the BCS standings.
Yeah, and if you want to know how strength of schedule factors in, it's obviously not a set-aside component to the BCS standings, but you don't have to look far to see how it plays in. Sooners ranked number 1 average in the computers. Number 2 is LSU, a team that's not getting all that much love from the human polls. And number 3 on the computer averages, that's Auburn. So those are the 3 teams at the top of the computer rankings if you average them all out. It's obviously about who have you played that the computers look at. And, Oklahoma's non-conference schedule maybe didn't get the most love in the world, Sherm, but it's definitely paying dividends. Air Force has played decently. Cincinnati's played decently. Utah State has had a few fumbles along the way, but beat BYU. So this is a non-conference schedule, and then obviously Florida State, paying dividends for the Sooners. If they're thinking about softening that non-conference schedule, they need to think again.
It's crazy. You hear a lot of talk from Norman really trying to reconsider whether they should be playing all these tough teams in non-conference. The shrinking Big 12 now means there'll be 9 conference games, which just leaves 3 non-conference games. Bob Stoops has said, I'm not sure we want to keep playing this level of schedule. Crazy talk. The Florida State game, if they throw that out this year, they can throw themselves into the Fiesta Bowl or into a lesser bowl game. If the Sooners win out, which is a big if, but 2 road games at Stillwater, at Columbia this week, those are their 2 big tests. They win those, they could be in the Big 12 championship game, playing for the BCS championship game on the strength of Florida State. I watched that Florida State-Boston College game. I thought, looks like this one may not be one they can bank on. They survive. That is huge. If you're a Sooner fan, you love 2 things: the BCS computers and the Sooners non-league schedule, and you don't want to see either of those things change.
Yeah, I mean, right now, those are the things that are saving the Sooners, and that's fine. Under the system that we're in, I think you have to have that balance in your non-conference schedule. And you know what? It's good for the fans, too. I mean, let's not forget that the fans get to enjoy having a Florida State game on the schedule, and they maybe don't get pumped up for Utah State or Air Force, but those end up being decent-ish games on the schedule, and then that helps in the long term. So if you're Oklahoma, you want to continue to schedule, maybe you don't go out and you don't schedule up an Alabama every year. You don't go out and schedule up that team that you think is going to be at the top of the polls. But you better go out and schedule up some folks because, as you mentioned, Sherm, the shrinking Big 12, there's going to be a lot more games against Iowa State, a lot more games against Kansas, a lot more games against teams that aren't really going to help you in the computer rankings, because right now that is what's helping the Sooners. Hey, stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma. And remember, News OK's Press Row is sponsored by Eskridge Lexus. Stop in and see them today.